What do all of these buildings in Washington, D.C. have in common? They were all developed by one man, Harry Wardman. This prolific real estate developer claimed to have housed 10% of Washington, D.C.'s population in 1925, and today it is estimated that as much as 3% of the city's population is living in properties developed by him. During his lifetime, he was responsible for building approximately 3,000 buildings, which is twice as much as the two most prolific developers of his period, according to Sally Burke.
I'm Sally Burke. I have an undergraduate degree in architecture and a graduate degree in historic preservation, and have been a preservation activist in Washington for almost 40 years, I guess. And I wrote my thesis on Harry Wardman's row houses.
In Burke's August 1988 submitted George Washington University thesis, she wrote the following: "It is arguably true that no Washington builder before Wardman, and possibly no builder since, constructed as many buildings of merit. Some of the most iconic and well-known Wardman-developed buildings are the Hay Adams Hotel, the St. Regis Hotel, and the Wardman Tower. They are the trifecta of iconic Wardman buildings, according to Burke. But it is his residential homes that he is most well known for, especially those north of Florida Avenue, or then known as Boundary Street."
He did, in fact, build front porch row houses in the thousands, and other developers saw how successful they were and followed suit. But he was largely responsible for institutionalizing the front porch row house in Washington for 3 decades.
So prevalent are his homes that some real estate agents and writers will even describe these front porch row houses as being a Wardman style, though Caroline Mesrobian Hickman told WTOP she's never heard of that term.
I've never heard of a, quote, Wardman home. I would bet that is something that a real estate agent has made up.
That's exactly
what happens really frequently.
The real estate agents think that they can get a whole lot more for their listing if they call it a Wardman, and when I can pick up on it, I correct them.
But who is Wardman, and how was he able to accomplish so much in the district? According to Burke and Hickman, he was able to purchase swaths of land after landowners sold them when developing the streets that got platted north of Boundary Street. Burke also claimed that it was a lot easier to obtain financing early in the 20th century due to less bureaucracy to go through. Another major factor to Wardman's success was the major housing shortage that the city dealt with at the time.
The timing had an enormous amount to do with it. Land was available, and it was easier to get financing.
And there was a huge housing shortage.
15 years after the end of the Civil War, the population of the city was nearly triple what it previously had been, increasing from 61,000 in 1860 to 178,000 in 1880, according to Burke's thesis. Over the course of the 20th century, before his death in 1938, Wardman and his career thrived until 1929, when the crash came. By this point, Hickman said Wardman was done with hotels and apartments, but he continued to build modest family housing almost to the day he died. If curious about whether or not you are one of the many to be living in a home developed by Wardman, peruse the Wardman's Washington website, which includes a database of buildings developed by Wardman. From WTOP, this is Michelle Goldchain.